federal grand jury has indicted 5 former Memphis police officers in the death of Tyre Nichols. Today, a U.S. District Court in Memphis charged all 5 with violating Nichols' civil rights.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We got a little something for you today with Tyre Nichols. I want to talk about what this newly handed down federal indictment means and how they can go about doing this. So, as everybody I'm sure knows, but just in case one of my viewers does not exactly know, well, Tyre Nichols was a 29-year-old father of 3. He was murdered by Memphis police, 5 officers, specifically 5 gangster cops is what I call them. These cops violently beat him on January 7th earlier this year. He died later on. It was shown later that, man, this young man had a brain injury, so they beat him pretty damn bad. So these officers were charged with second-degree murder, kidnapping, and I believe witness tampering in the state court. I think the max that they can get in the state is like 60 years, which is surprising to me because, California and a lot of other states, second-degree murder gets you 15 to life. But then again, California is more of a police state, draconian type law state. So, it's a little bit different here in California. So anyways, a federal indictment was handed down. It was a 4-count indictment, and the charges include depriving Tyre Nichols of his constitutional rights through excessive force, a conspiracy to witness tamper, and deliberate indifference. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the charges, and then we'll, I guess, talk a little bit about the officers. And so, if you're wondering how the state can charge them, and then the federal government can charge them, there is a doctrine called dual sovereignty. And basically, what this doctrine says is that more than one state or a state and a federal entity can prosecute a crime without violating the double jeopardy clause of the Fifth Amendment. And that's exactly what's going on here. And I'm glad that this is what's going on, because I talk about it and I've mentioned it that a lot of times these officers, they get away with so much. Is it any wonder why these officers continue to beat people, continue to rant like the Breonna Strauss, on TikTok about how they're entitled and they can do whatever they want? Is it any wonder how Officer Daniel Outerer from the Seattle Police Department, it doesn't even care really that, he's disrespecting a dead young woman that was killed by one of his fellow police officers, I mean, is it any wonder we see videos where, they spray an Army sergeant, I believe he was a sergeant, in the face? I could go on and on and on. I'm sure if you're tuning into this channel, that officers have too much power and they get away with too much. And why? It's because of their police unions, okay? Their police unions is what is powerful. Their police unions have people in the state government or even the federal government, and that's how they get away with this. And in California, and I mentioned it before, is that many officers in the state, but also correctional officers, have done some pretty egregious things. There's 3 officers out of Santa Clara County that worked at the jail there and beat a mentally ill patient, killed him. Surprisingly, they were prosecuted, but only after pressure. And the crazy part about that case is all those charges were later thrown out. They got all their convictions reversed. So I'm happy that these 5 gangster officers they're going to prison. They're going to prison for a damn long time. I hope that they get a life sentence, because it's people like them that deserve the life sentence and never an opportunity to go home. You know, I believe a sentence should be proportionate to the culpability of your crime. I don't believe in giving somebody a life sentence for stealing, which happens quite a bit in California because of the 3 strikes law. You know, if you shoot somebody, you know, I believe, you know, if you injure the guy pretty bad, you should get, 15, 20 years or maybe even longer. You know, I think the facts of each case are different. But yes, I'm very glad that these officers are going to be going to prison. You know, in the state, now if they get convicted in the state, and let's say they get the max 60 years, but then they get convicted in the federal district court and they get life, I'm not sure exactly. I believe the state would have to basically commute their sentence, and then they would go to the federal facility. And the reason why I say that is because I had some friends years ago that were indicted under RICO, and they ended up getting a life sentence in California and ended up getting a life sentence in the federal prison. So the governor had to basically commute that sentence or pardon them, or not pardon them, but commute that sentence down and let the federal government take them. So, you know, because these officers were in an authority position and abused that power, I believe they should be subject to some type of special allegation where it gets them a life without the possibility of parole, so they can never get out. Because people like these men right here deserve never to be back out on the street. And I base that off of quite a few things, not just the Tyre Nichols' unfortunate death, but also because you could see how they handled the situation. You know, one of the officers, his name was Martin, moved his body camera in a way where, it couldn't capture the beating of Tyre Nichols. Another couple of officers, Haley and Smith, only activated their body cameras after the beating. And Officer Mills took his off after medical personnel arrived. You know, this case is just, it's sickening, man. It really is. It upsets me to see the video. I pray for Tyre Nichols, his family, and his children. I pray for peace and comfort for them, as much as possible. These officers were part of a unit called the Scorpion Unit, and since it's been disbanded, obviously. But here's something I also wanted to focus on and talk about. The Scorpion Unit had quite a bit of complaints going against them, right? So instead of investigating the entire Scorpion Unit, they basically transferred these men I'm assuming it was all men from what I gather, all these men to other units and other teams. So, it should have been investigated to see, well, what were these guys doing? If anybody happens to remember Rampart in Los Angeles County, it was basically that, Rampart Division, and all these officers were crooked. All these officers were gangbangers. They were known gangbangers from the street. Oh, well, they weren't exactly known. Let me take that back. They had ties to local gangs, and they ended up becoming police officers. And they really abused their authority and were harming people, robbing people, doing all stuff like that. And instead of investigating the entire force, the Rampart Division, what they did was, they got a few of them, and then, oh, okay, everybody else is cool, transfer them out. And then it just spread. And I think that's what is going to happen here. The people who were transferred from this Scorpion Unit are going to go to another team or another unit, and that callousness that they have, that gangster mentality that they have, is going to spread. And I think that's all bad, you know. I want to say something. I want to quote something that the Attorney General said. Attorney General Kristen Clark, she's quoted as saying, "We all know that police officers have challenging jobs, and that most officers carry out their jobs with honesty, dedication, and integrity." Well, that's part of the issue, and the problem of this whole thing is that everybody believes that when they see something like this, that, oh, it's just a few bad apples, you know, it's an isolated incident. No, let's get real, people. Every time I hear about something bad happening with police, it makes me lose more and more faith, where to the point where I just don't trust the police. I don't, and it's unfortunate because, you know, I have a wife, and, you know, if something was going on, I would hope that she could call the police and be safe in knowing that. But it's like, damn, you know, can my wife be safe if she picks up the phone and dials 911? Or do I have to worry about some, you know, piece of shit cop showing up and giving her a hard time? You know what I mean? Because my girl is a carrier of a firearm. She, you know, she exercises her right to bear arms. And, you know, the thing is like, I know how police are. You know, they get spooked. A lot of them are cowards. And, you know, if you're, you know, oh my gosh, you got a gun, you know, like treat her some other type of way, you know. So, but yeah, so yeah, I wanted to do this video. I wanted to, you know, kind of give a little quick backdrop about what dual sovereignty is and what it means, basically, you know, for this case. So I appreciate you tuning in. I hope that you have a blessed day. Please hit the like or subscribe button. Take care.